Good morning. Hi. So we are continuing our power system analysis using online method. Okay, so last class itself we know we were seeing face to face and learning. Now because of this unexpected situation, we have to go for our online modes of study. So what I'm doing is I'm doing some PPTs first. Theory portions I will do with the PPT, and the problem portion I will write it in a paper and record it and send it to you. Okay, so myself Ini Fatima is starting with our online session for power system analysis, and I am continuing with the load flow studies. Okay, so we will move on with our load flow studies. In this chapter, we have to discuss on what is a power flow analysis, or in other words, I should say what is a load flow analysis for us. Okay, so we know that our power system is a dynamic system. I should say it is the most dynamic system, and its power system is consisting of a large number of elements, large number of components connected to it, and it is the most dynamic system. You know, at an instant of time many loads are switching on and taking off from the system, and it is creating disturbance, and this disturbance or the switching operation variations are there in the power system always. That's why I said our system is the most dynamic system. So in order to analyze the normal operating condition of a power system, we employ load flow analysis. So load flow analysis refers to the normal operating condition of a power system. Under normal operating condition, what is the voltage of our domestic supply, what is the current coming in it, all those things relates to the normal operating condition. So if somebody is asking you what is a load flow analysis or what is a power flow analysis, then you should say it is a computational procedure employing numerical algorithms in order to determine the steady state operating characteristics of a power system from the given line data and also bus data. Okay, line data gives all the information regarding the line admittance, shunt admittance, line charging admittance, both are same. Then as line admittance, all those things, from where to where the line is going, what is the current flowing, all those things are given by line data. The information regarding the lines is in line data table, and the information regarding the bus, whether the bus is a generator bus or it is a load bus, and all those data are in, all those information is given in bus data. Okay, so we use this line data and bus data, and we give this in some algorithms, that is Newton-Raphson algorithm, Gauss-Seidel algorithm. All these things you have already studied in your mathematics class, engineering maths 2 3, and all those classes you have studied, isn't it? So we are taking the information from the power system and we are putting it in this algorithms, and after optimizing we will get the solution, the present solution or the normal operating condition of a power system. So a load flow analysis is a computational procedure that is required to determine the steady state operating characteristics of a power system or a network from the given data. Okay, so why do we need this? So why do we need this load flow analysis or power flow analysis? Actually, we require this to find out the steady state analysis of a power system. So it determines what will be the answer of this load flow analysis, gives what is the normal condition, or under normal operating condition what is the value of current and voltage angle delta, and all those values will be given by the solution of power flow analysis. Okay, so this, because our system is a large system, we are employing numerical algorithms. So for solving such a large system, in order to reduce the computational time, the algorithms we are employing in our load flow analysis should be fast, efficient and accurate numerical algorithms. That is why we are selecting Gaussian, Newton-Raphson, and more than that we are moving on to decoupled load flow analysis and fast decoupled load flow analysis. These four algorithms are discussed in our module 3, our present module 3. So we will move on to it in our following slides. Okay, so in a power flow analysis, what are the solutions we get is we will find out the voltage of a bus. So I should ask you, what is a bus? So a bus is the interconnection point of two or more components in a power system. A common node can be called as a bus. So to the bus we can inject power into the system and power can be taken out from the system also from a bus. In our network we call it as a node, but in a power system we call it as a bus. Okay, so it gives the voltage, magnitude and angles at each bus of a system. Load flow analysis gives steady state operating solution of unknown variables, mainly voltage and delta. If we know the voltage delta, then we can calculate active power, reactive power and all those from the data. Okay, so for this we are moving on to power flow analysis. So next we will discuss what are the steps taken to solve the load flow analysis. The first step includes the modeling of the power system components and the network that we have already gone through in our first module. How to model different power system components like a generator, how can we represent a transformer, and what about a transmission line, or how will we represent if it is a medium transmission line or a long transmission line, how can we represent a load, a motor, and all those things we have already gone through our first module. So using that knowledge we will model all the power system components, and then we will form a network, a positive sequence network, or we from the single line diagram we are forming the modeled network. Next, what we have to do is we have to develop load flow equations. So what will be the equations? That equations will depend on what type of bus it is, or what are the parameters which are specified for a particular bus, that we will deal in the next slide. And after modeling the power system, we will develop the corresponding load flow equations. And for solving these load flow equations, we use numerical techniques such as Gauss-Seidel, Newton-Raphson method, decoupled method, fast decoupled method, etc. These are the methods we are going to discuss in our module. So next is, why do we need this load flow analysis? What is the need of doing load flow analysis? So what is the significance of a load flow in a power system? It is very important for planning a power system operation, or that planning is used for economic scheduling, which we deal in our fifth module, and it also is required for our control and operations of existing system, and it is also helpful in planning for the future expansion, and what are the new loads or new generating stations or new transmission lines that can be installed, or that is required to be installed for a secure operation. And it also helps us to determine the best size and the most favorable location for a power system capacitor. Why do we need a power system capacitor? Because from this power flow analysis we are getting the solution as a magnitude of the voltage and phase angle, so that from that values we can identify which are the weak points in a power system. So in those weak points or weak buses, we have to install some compensators or capacitors for the improvement of a power factor, or for increasing the bus voltage of that particular bus. So there we are using usually capacitors or some other compensators.
So we can identify all those sensitive areas or weak points all using load flow solutions. And also we can propose what will be the generator, we can propose the capacity of the future generating station or a substation, or what should be the future capacity of a particular substation nearby, like that. Also, from this power flow analysis, we can optimize our system losses. How optimize the system losses means we have to reduce the all the losses so that the maximum generated energy will be used for useful work. And also it can be used to check the stability of the system. And also all this helps in ensuring the security of the power system, and it increases the reliability of the power system with continuous power supply in all the 365 into 24 hours. This is a diagrammatic representation of a power flow analysis. This is very simple, that we are doing a load flow and the inputs we are giving are our bus data, our line data, and our generator or load data, and we will formulate equations, and these equations will be solved using some solver or by using this numerical computation methods in order to get the solutions like voltage magnitude, angle of the voltage, real or reactive power component of the bus, what is the current flow, and what are the losses that occurred in that particular transmission line. Okay, so this is a general block diagram of a power flow analysis. From that, we should understand that we need different inputs such as bus data, line data, generator, and load data. So first data we need is a bus data. Then what is a bus? We have already discussed bus is the meeting point of various components through which power can be injected or power can be taken out. So all the components are connected through bus. So depending upon the four main parameters that we have already discussed, that is the magnitude of the power, magnitude of the voltage, phase angle of the voltage delta, real power or active power or the true power, and the reactive power of the bus. We can classify our buses into three main categories. That is, first one is a slack bus, also referred to as a swing or a reference bus, and the second one is a generator bus. We call it as a PV bus, or we can also call it as a voltage controlled bus, and the last classification is a load bus or a PQ bus. We call it as a PQ bus. So these are the different buses and their names, and we will deal with each buses first. First we are going on to our generator bus. It is called generator bus, and the specified data are the magnitude of the voltage and the real power is given for a generator bus. So since the magnitude V and the real power P is given, we call that bus as PV bus. And since the voltage is given and we are not allowed to change the voltage value, we call this bus also as a voltage controlled bus. And the next one is a swing bus or a reference bus.
So next type of bus is a slack bus or a swing bus, or we will call it as a reference bus. Okay, this slack bus is also a type of generator bus. For example, what is the significance of the slack bus is an important question and is discussed in the next slide. Okay, before that, in our ideal case, we say that the generation should be equal to the load or demand. But in practical cases, there is another term called losses. When the voltage is applied to the load, current flows from the generator to the load, and due to this current flow, I square R losses. Some energy is lost in terms of or in the form of heat or copper losses, we will call. Sometimes a portion will be core losses, like that losses will be there. So we, in our practical system, we should say the generated power should be equal to the load plus losses. So while solving the load flow, or while solving our practical cases, we will get an additional term losses. We have to calculate this. The who will feed to this losses or who will supply this losses. For that, we are keeping a generator bus. That is a generator bus with the maximum capacity can be allocated as a slack bus or a swing bus. I repeat, a slack bus or swing bus is also a generator bus with the largest capacity, so that it will account for or it will provide power for all the losses, line losses, especially in a power system. Okay, so the specified data for a reference bus are the magnitude and angle of the voltage of a particular bus. Okay.
So usually in the university exam, they will be asking for a 2 mark question. What is the significance of a slack bus? There you should have to refer that a slack bus is acting as a reference bus with a voltage angle, and it is used to allocate the line losses or the losses of a power system, because these losses are unknown until the end of the load flow equation. After the load flow equation only we are getting this power losses. So in our we takes this reference bus to solve the to supply this losses. And the last type of the bus is a load bus. Why do we call it as a load bus? Because in this bus, the specified data are real power of the bus and the reactive power of the bus. Since P and Q values are given, we call that bus as a PQ bus, and we have to find out the remaining values like voltage and angle of the voltage, that is delta. So in this load bus, we are calculating the values of the voltage and delta, so that we have to ensure it that at a bus the voltage remains within the permissible limit. So this is the last bus, load bus, and the conclusion is the different types of buses are shown in a table with the quantities that are specified and the unknown variables. For a slack bus, we are getting our um, uh, magnitude of the voltage, phase angle delta, and PD and QD we are assuming it, and we have to find out what is the PG, generated power, and QG, therefore slack bus. Similarly, for generator bus also we are taking it, but we have to find out the voltage angle delta and the reactive power. And for a load bus or a PQ bus, we were given the generated active and the reactive components of the power in the particular bus, but we have to find out what is the voltage magnitude and the phase angle delta. So this is also one of the important question. What are the different types of buses in a power system? And we have to you have to write a note of it. Then again, I am coming back to our block diagram. We need different inputs, and that from that input, the first was the bus data. So we have to take the data which are specified, and we have to find out the remaining data. That is, first the three types of bus data we have to take it, that is PV bus, PQ bus, and a slack bus. For a PV bus, we were given the real power and the reactive power demand. We will get it. It is not generated, it is a demand, and we will also get the voltage magnitude. And for reactive and for load buses, we were given the real and reactive component of the power in that particular bus. And for a slack bus, we will be usually taking the voltage as 1 and the voltage angle as 0. And finally we will find out what are the losses. That is the first input. Second one is we have to give the line data. What are the different line data? For example, for a transmission line, we have to give the resistance, the inductance or the reactance, and also the capacitance if it has a shunt admittance or capacitance. So sometimes we will neglect it, sometimes we have to take it. If it is given in the question, then we have to consider the capacitance, else we will neglect it. So how will they give the capacitance? Usually we will be given the value as charging capacitance, charging admittance, etc. So we have to look through the transmission line, the type of the transmission line. Usually we were given only long transmission lines. So we have to represent it in the pi model. For a pi model, you know, the capacitance will be in the both parallel sides, that is pi side, perpendicular, and that will be c by 2 and c by 2 at both ends. That way we have to represent all our transmission lines. Next we have to give the data regarding the transformers, what is the winding resistance of the low voltage side and the high voltage side, is there any leakage reactance, what is the magnetization reactance, is there any admittance, all those things we have to feed it to our system. And last thing we need is a generator data. So the last thing we need is the different constraints. So for doing a load flow analysis, after formulating all the systems, we will have some assumptions, some constraints or some limitations. So the assumptions, like the system is in the steady state, that is no fault occurs, like that we are assuming. And we are also assuming that we are having a balanced load in a per unit system. So the constraints we usually take were the voltage and the voltage magnitude and voltage angle. That is, the voltage magnitude should be in between V minimum less than or equal to V of that particular bus, less than or equal to V maximum. That is, for a 230 volt system, we are giving it from 210 volt or 200 volt, less than or equal to our voltage V, less than or equal to 245 or 250. That is the range, that is the percentage we are giving, the percentage of relaxation. It can be a 5% or 10% is too bad, so it should be less than or equal to 5% that we decide. And also the voltage magnitude, we should keep a voltage angle should be also less than this particular angle. And also for particular bus, for a generating station, it is already the generator capacity is PGI, so it should be in between. For a safe running or for economic running, we should load up to a minimum level, and there is a maximum limit for that generator to be loaded. So we will take these two values and we will constrain the value of that particular generating bus as PG or PGI. That is, PGI should be less than PG max and it should be greater than PGI minimum. In mathematics, we will be writing it as PGI minimum less than or equal to PGI less than or equal to PGI maximum. Like that, the same constraint goes to the reactive component of the power also. That is the thing we mean by this constraints. So while doing a load flow solution, the constraint should be within the allowable margin. Okay. So again, back to our load flow studies. First we can represent it with our single line diagram. Then we will form an impedance diagram and we have to create a network equation, or that network equation can be V is equal to I into Z. Usually we are not finding out V because for our system elements are connected in parallel, so V will be usually a constant, usually approximately a constant. So we don't have to find out the value of V, but we have to find out the value of I. So for a network, what we will take the other equation, I is equal to Y into V. So we have to formulate our entire network or our single line diagram or our impedance diagram into an admittance matrix. Since admittance matrix is very easy to calculate and it is very easy to calculate, and for the computation time is also very less, we prefer it for doing load flow analysis. So we are representing it in the admittance matrix. Then we are employing the same in our numerical computation. To conclude, we are doing our load flow analysis in these 5 steps. In these 5 steps, that is, first we are creating a bus admittance matrix uh, from an impedance diagram, and then we will estimate the values. For example, we will take all the bus data and we will classify it into a PQ bus or a PV bus, and among that PV bus we will select one as a slack bus, and that PQ bus we will get the active and reactive powers, and that PV bus we will get real power and the voltages. So we will assume all the values, and we will assume the value of slack bus as 1 angle 0. Then what we will do is we will do it in the substitute in our power flow equation, and we will go through the derivations, and we will use method, a Newton-Raphson or Gauss-Seidel method, and we will solve the equation, and we will get a final value. Usually we will get value for Vi, delta I, etc., and we will check whether that Vi value is within that constrained space, and that delta value is also within that constrained space. We will check it, and again, yeah, okay, if it is like that, then we will proceed it. We will proceed it, and we will again go for the next iteration. We will solve it again. We will find out if it is within the limit. Yeah, yes, it is within the limit, and the margin is also safe. Again we will do it. Similarly we do it in successive steps until we get the best solution. So this is how we do load flow analysis. So for the first, we have to find out what is a bus admittance matrix. So next section we are going to is how to find out a bus admittance matrix.